the nature secret of human evolution, and spiritual renaissance of mankind, and the imminent emergence of the Divine Master. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanirbhavati bharat. Abhyutthanam adharmasya tadathamnyam srijamyaham. The pure perfect perception of pristine purity of wisdom of our ancestors declare that the emergence of the divinity in the human form of personality and the pure divine emergence that way. Great men are necessity of the nature and they become the nature's prodigy and they are the beloved children of Mother Earth, by whose birth the womb of Mother Earth satiates and her motherhood gets re-sanctified and the dignity and decorum of the status is upheld, thereby further sanctifies the process of procreation among the mankind, and by that act of procreation of that great men and their emergence in the human form further reassures the continuity of this human race in the creation, and the nature unveils herself and of its secrets only in those great men and in their times, and those times are certain times in the times of creation due to her great child presence in these times, and in that times only nature's prodigy is transformed as gift by the Mother Earth to the mankind, and that times are treated as golden times of mankind. Divinity in action in the human form of these times, the mankind experiences unparalleled surge in absorption, love, devotion, surrender, in the matters pertaining to personal evolution, as well as the same effect of surge perceivable on the common psyche of society also, and also the effects on the front of intellectuality which reaches the state of supremacy, and in the matters of material science development too, which results into and reflected in the grandeur of material wealth manifestation, which same state is existing and can be perceived even now also if anyone observe with careful, critical and unbiased mind, with rationality, logical and scientific mindset when analyzed the events and trails in present time of mankind evolution because of the divine personality presence physically in these times, and we ourselves are the living examples of those effects of that surge of that times, which can be perceivable to ourselves when our elders or ourselves make the mention of or take a name of those personalities. We feel and experience and talk in reverence and respect as if it is the reality of the present times. See the effect now also of the mention of those great men. Well, now we, at the same time in the present time, surpassing the time and space dimension, we reach and bring those times to our present times of ours and experience the same effect. Till date, we, in the present times too experiences the love, devotion, reverence for those divine personalities in the human form, though of those times, though substantially lacking the complete and total comprehension of those divine personalities, though they are the humanness embodiments, and the effects of their physical presence in those times reflects by converting those times with their effects, which effects in those times event by becoming those times as the source of purity, and due to that state prevalence the minds and hearts gets bloomed in the atmosphere also by and large get cleansed by the personalities of the poisonous effects of generations of evil deeds, evil thoughts, which thoughts and deeds thereby converted the spirit as evil, and this led to the emergence of the evil spirit source. In return this source, which assists, helps, and manifests these evil thoughts, evil deeds and their birth is due to, starting with the thorough contamination, pollution, disorientation, distortion which state resulted due to the consumption of light, lack of prevalence of light of knowledge, thereby the birth of darkness. And born darkness spreads its wings due to continuity of repetition of same thoughts of darkness. Acts which are uncongenial and against the principle of creation and the principle of continuity of creation and envelops existence. Then the ungodliness, inhumanness, prevalence to the level and stage and status of perfect soil for the dark beings to emerge, grow and control and rule over the state of affairs of mankind, and resulting into chaotic state and bringing untold misery upon the populace and upon the entire existence. This state become unbearable burden to the Mother Earth too, and Mother Earth too wanted riddance of this misery and wait eagerly for the emergence of the Divine Personality in human form. And further, the Divine Personalities absorbs us in the noble thought straits and thereby produces restrainment of our indulgence in those nefarious deeds. These effects we experience because of those Divine Personalities who were in the human form of personality existing, living amongst us as company, human during these times. Which state is the certain state of divinity, of definitely of golden age for mankind. So one of the secrets of the nature's evolution of mankind, it appears, is the absorption. For the higher evolution and perfection, as well for the fine and smooth finish of the events, tasks, endeavors of human life and living. So, absorption is one of the essential characters of the human being. Apart from other animate beings, it appears to be a strange statement in an ordinary sense, but it became essential to know in depth of this secret of the nature. In order to have proper understanding of this state, as you and me are definitely interested in, wanted to evolve further in all the aspects of life and to increase the quality of life thereby, clearly giving a proper definition to the human living. Generally it is visible, in a common way, in the common way of life. Ordinary human beings also expresses that state, while he is involved in an household chores and his attending on his personal chores, or while attending to the official duties, or professional obligations, in order to bring needed and expected or projected or assigned results. But it is a way of life for the human to be specific and to be general, and is perceivable in plants and animal existence too. At a higher level and in a higher degree and in a different plane, it is further thoroughly experienced and exhibited for the participants who ever attended the great musicians' concerts, great men discourses, great vocalists' recitals, great dancers' dance programmers, great theater presentations, great men of oratory skills, calibered personalities of their speeches, group chanting of hymns and sacred syllables at the time of Homer and religious rituals, bhajans, and prayer meetings, and in the cinema halls of great classical movies, or family melodramas, or fiction, or music-oriented films, or thrillers, sci-fi action movies, or romantic or slight pornos movies, the great paintings, the great sculptures, the great old temples, the great old churches, the ancient mosques, Roman times antiques and relics, exposure to Mayan civilization artifacts, exposure to Egypt ancient civilization, exposure to Babylonian civilization artifacts, Chinese civilization and findings, Central Asian findings, exposure to ancient Indian scripts, ancient places of worships, when visited and experienced the ancient wisdom and intellectual supremacy as outstanding and unthinkable even in the present times, leaves the visitor in spellbound state and make him dumb and transfixed in the thoughts of his own. A state of absorption, silent flowing waters, magnificent rivers and trails, mind-boggling mighty waterfalls, expansive oceans, snow-clad mountain ranges, mighty Himalayas, awe-inspiring highest plateau, thick forests, wildlife, flower gardens, endless rows of paddy fields, etc., etc., the sight and vision of which man gets transfixed and lost and spells out. So refreshing, so absorbing, so great a relief. It is an interesting subject and increasing the curiosity as it struck suddenly to the observant. I in mind of me and making me to think and makes you also to think too, is you and I are sailing in the same boat of search and analysis. So let us examine the process and results and effects of attending those mentioned events and places to see by what name we aptly call them. First thing we do is we attend physically. Means our physical presence with a pre-preparedness to see, listen, for that to remain in silence and to keep an observant eye and ears and heart and oriented mind to the subject issue, as if it is a military preparedness to face the events. Means alert in all planes and states with a stage to receive the impression of ongoing events and become one with the process of the event and totally prepared to receive the specific effect upon us at the place specific and with the people specific, means with the people whose wavelength of mind for the subject specific present there matches with the rest of us. What happens to us if we attend that way any congregation or places? How we could do all that in our busy and time-starved states for what we did? First, we had developed deep interest in the subject matter and riveted ourselves to the subject matter by giving due importance and priority to the subject matter and convinced ourselves about the need of that subject matter to ourselves and adopted the needed way to achieve that. We did our homework without our knowledge. That is, prepared ourselves for the event by accepting thoroughly for the event by way of self suggestions and as well as auto-suggestion to the mind and to the heart and thereby to the whole body and to the total existence. First place, we got the results of our actions which produced deep interest. That resulted in rivetedness to the subject matter. That rivetedness resulted is withdrawn state of mind and that mind emerged. That emerged mind made us to lose the body awareness, rather made the body to conduct in a natural way. That natural way state of the body regulated the breath and the mind stopped wavering. That brought to ourselves firmness from the rest of issues, howsoever the other issues are important, howsoever other issues are serious, howsoever other issues are critical. Still we carved out some time out of our busy schedules in order to attend and be totally prepared to be the part of the process of the event and allowed the process to produce the results. The results are proper understanding and absorbing the essence, and that absorbing the essence produces relief and relaxation and pleasure and growth of the mind and thought and being. Due to the concentration, which was resulted by that process. So we can name it as we are experiencing it. As oneness with that state can be named as absorption and allowing that state to remain within us, absorbing us. The analytical mind with the aid of thought and thought process, you and me, is we, continuing this thinking and kept this thinking in the state of process. And this process led us to the conclusion for the nature's secret human of evolution, and that is absorption. But what exactly it means? It comprises. It produces and how it produces, though I became one with one thought and where from that one thought draws that fresh energy to enrich and relax and release me, and what is its pathway in channels of flow to the entire human system and existence, and what that pathway for the thought to reach that energy, how that the thought knows the means, ways and path to that energy, and how the thought has evolved a system to tap the needed amount of energy only, and how the thought knows the tapped energy to get it absorbed by the human system. So absorption is essential for the relief is the result of absorption, and absorption is essential for the relaxation and proper conduct and efficiently conducting, resulting into relief, and thereby the concentration and thereby the growth, which results are usually derived by practicing the path of yoga, which practice unconsciously we have adopted without knowing that the way we are living is on the same principles of yoga, nay those established and practicing principles of life and living of human when observed by those ancient men with their wisdom. The same principles those wise men applied and adopted and developed, systemized that science and named it as yoga. So I and you are following the path of yoga. As this word become alien to the land of its birth, due to the language of Sanskrit, which language is not in use among the masses, and innumerable local dialects developed due to the failure of free flow of the language to the masses and its denial to the general populace, and could not be imparted. Though the Sanskrit is the mother of all languages for Indian languages, and the yogic system of practice also failed to produce needed and assured results to the mankind if anyone practices it, for the evolution of his self and to empower him with the dormant energies when awakened and brought to full level of blooming, present in the human system. And further, the ancient yogic methods have lost its charm, and fewer became the number who intend to adopt and practice. As well, such able masters were also not available. When such was the condition prevailing in India and in the world, in order to rejuvenate the mankind and make it possible for the common man to practice the path of God realization, the toning up of the method of yoga and process, and to mend the hearts and minds in order to respond to that principle, with which higher evolution is possible through the various states and intensity of absorption. Though it appears we are on a right path of analysis, still something is missing. We know that we have been experiencing absorption and is essential, and we avail it from number of means, either for positive side or for the negative side of human behavior. As this same absorption is also experienced by utilization of narcotics for producing absorption, and that resulted absorption is named as intoxication, which state of absorption is also produced by alcohol consumption or other means of mental practices, or peculiar addictions to the particular type of actions through mind or physical actions, which produces absorption state and made the human dependent. Such examples are plenty available in the society and world at large. For example, the dictators like Hitler, Mussolini, or from ancient scriptures examples like Kansa or Jarasandha or Duryodhan. All those personalities were seized or absorbed with one thought, and it was deeply impressed upon them, and thereby the way the history explained the events of those times, of unparalleled levels of bloodshed, cruelty, torture, violence and destruction and annihilation of mankind. If we take the examples of faithfuls of different faiths, this absorbed thought and ideals of those founders of those faiths, for establishing the existence of God and God realization among the men of the world, in order to unify them as one. What amount of bloodshed had taken place and still taking place. No limits for violence, no limits for terror, limitless cruelty thoroughly visible on this planet for the results of the absorbed thoughts of negative nature. But still man is somehow dependent upon this medium in one way or other while continue to live as human in this world, whether it produces sometimes negative results or positive result when properly applied and oriented. The effects of the absorption, though the absorption is essential, has wider ramifications upon the evolution of human society and for the countries and for the world, and for the entire existence. A need emerged for this habitual stricken and dependent human for the absorption. In a way it became addiction to have the absorption time and again and continuously to have it. Again and again, and searching for the proper means to have it again, and also to mend and orient and direct that state in a proper way which is congenial to the growth and evolution of mankind, and to affect the balance of existence for the mankind and for the entire existence. Then how to bring in the balance of those elements which are governing the state of absorption and source of absorption, and instruments which are playing the critical role in emergence of absorption. Holders of absorption and utilizing instruments of effects of absorption, and what are they and where are they and how they are existing? So further need emerged to know, understand, and analyze in order to conclude logically the rational queries. There are three major players who are playing the critical role while emerging out the state of absorption in the human are thought, thought potency, and thought process. Again in return they are the tools for the mind and brain, and the field is the heart. The affected levels are consciousness, and the source of the energy is the spirit, and the forces prana, which get converted as ojas in the human body, and when get consumed is the prana for the process. And effects are expressed in various forms of human personality, and those expressed effects are termed as personality traits, and those effects are positive as well negative, and when put into application through those personality traits in the form of acts and deeds by the men who experienced higher degree of absorption state. While interacting among the civil society, that effects are named and known, whether they are positive or negative effects on the civil society, or whether that state which had emerged then affected had the negative or positive absorption on the person. Anyhow, till now we are bracing through the winds of past glory of recorded history in historical places and times of mankind, but we are yet to begin the serious study of this subject, and when and then only it is possible to comprehend it, and it may be apt to say that when a diver dives deep into the depths of the ocean, then only he can find pure pearls. So to find pure pearls of wisdom we need to dive deep into mankind's ancient civilization. Because this is the civilization of the entire mankind and not alone to India, and this heritage is the heritage of mankind. Because India is present-day India with its geographical boundaries and borders was not existent in those times of civilization, so let us resume the search and begin with the primal seers of Vedam times, who realized that source, who lived that way, who expressed that living, and that time civilization was kind and gracious to us to pass down those great primal seers' identity by their names, and given us their identity along with their sacred companions, the great mothers, viz. Sage Kashyapa and Mata Aditi, Mata Dithi, Sage Atri and Mata Ansuya, Sage Bhardwaj and Mata Sushila, Sage Gautama and Mata Ahalya, Sage Vishwamitra and Mata Kumudhwati, Sage Jamadagni and Mata Renuka, Sage Vashisht and Mata Arundhati, and who remained from then to now in Saptrishi Mandal, continuously illuminating that deep space in that form-specific formation of stars from time immemorial, and guiding the entire existence, and remaining as everlasting and ever remaining to vouch and witness of every act and movement of the entire existence. And we have to make a note that even the finite human, the me, is also under their scanner and watchful eye and guidance, whether this small I is having awareness of their existence or their watching. But still they are unmindful of any existence action or reaction, but keep doing their job of guiding and watching as the sacred duty towards the creation and to the Creator, in whom that sacred wisdom in its pristine purity was expressed to his Vedam, which are the source of pristine, pure, sacred and ancient wisdom, to get the guidance for our efforts, and lives as well source of evolution of mankind, and to know the basis for the evolution. I have to make this note as clarification of those primal seers' names usage in the commonplace in the times of all avatars, and in thereafter times also used those great names of those primal seers as they became the source, nay, the institutions and the entities of sacred wisdom of pristine purity, and those names are till today in use among all men of the present-day India. The race in which that noble ancient sacred wisdom is expressed, and to that wisdom a small name is been given to, as Vedam, in a simple way, a true way of life, of living, as well lived and practiced that way of living with the divine, nay, that very divine is the life which also allowed all able minds to think in all the times of time immemorial to till the present times and of the coming times to think, to know, to examine, to analyze of its validity and adaptability to the times, to the lives, to the seekers, to the knowledge, and for living and further to see whether these great expressions are allowing the complete freedom of thought of the mankind of its pure, pristine perception of total dependence and complete surrender and implicit acceptance to the will of the divine, and sought that source is the source even for their bare needs and necessities of life, and keeping the goal is the supreme, and to achieve that purpose for which this human birth being granted to as a gift by the Almighty. With this perception that time human race of this sacred land lived with that awareness and remained unaware of anything and continued to live thereafter in that absorbed state, and in that race that absorbed state of the divine started shedding that light of enlightenment and effulgence on all existence, in that enlightened state effulgence aura affecting the process of evolution and set into motion that process, and thereby giving an opportunity to other state of existence and forms of life into one and all to get that boon of human birth in order to pursue that realization. Along the passing of the time, the process of evolution which was set into motion earlier evolved momentum within, due to the intense presence of divinity, enlightenment, effulgence along with its aura in the entire existence and atmosphere. And because of that, the process of evolution experienced the surge in the said momentum of evolution, thereby the boon of human birth being granted to those entities which had the smear of divinity due to perchance of luck or destiny or natural process, and thereby acquired that needed amount of divinity within, which became the prerequisite to get the opportunity to take birth as human. Having taken straight plunge in the divine effulgence, an entity which is same physically as they human first time, and being among those pristine pure entities whose forms named later as of souls, being got the new identity as souls in the human body, and the newborn human started getting they needed nourishment from the new center named as soul, and in return that new entity of divine energy center or divine embodiment of energy center, which became intermediary space of absolute state of purity with a touch of divinity, which in return becomes the absolute source of pure and complete spirit, which state started imbibing needed, required and sufficient amount of spirit in the emerged entity named as human, and perchance when that state of existence turned to the divine, that state can perhaps lead and transform to its absolute pure state with the same divine touch, and further that state can lead to the state of soul, which can become the true pathway for the final destination, in which the newborn new breed to be designated as human, who is also named as human, found himself floating in the utter divinity, and the prevailing atmosphere was awe-inspiring, and this state further led him to the state of wonder, and that wonder absorbed him for quite some time in. Thereafter he started attempting to get the comprehension of the situation, and at that juncture a stir was felt, and that felt stir emerged as faculty of thinking, and it became a gateway, and a space was manifested in the about to designate an entity as human, and further produced a distance and added to the total distance within the existence apart from the distance on the path of journey towards and within the infinity. That juncture was manifested, and manifested juncture was filled with that pure essence, and that essence allowed that needed substance to emerge with the proper and suitable potency and power to express there, which state becomes fit to conduct that function of thinking with which that emerged faculty taken proper shape, and then that developed faculty in the form of thinking faculty came to his rescue to get the proper understanding and comprehension of the situation, and started again to imbibe the effects of pure divine, and again the new human lost in the absorption of the divine Evolved divine ordainment due to the presence of that pure divinity initiated further forward march of the evolution process and started expanding the horizons of reach and further enveloping every existence, thereby suitable atmosphere getting emerged, and that emerged atmosphere assisted in, enabled in creating the proper ground and to accommodate that very divine ordainment in turn shaped the events which are going to come to light and become helpful to increase the beneficiaries for the boon of human birth in the time span of unknown times of mankind civilization, and remained in that state further for unknown times only in order to get the sufficient amount absorption of that very process in that state, and that state expressed when fully matured in the state of increased birth of human evolution with all the proper faculties of full level and full-pledged human with humaneness, a complete human born with all the levels with which we can define him as human, who exhibits physical state, mental state, psychic state and spiritual state with the heart of the human and the mind of the human. In that human the spirit state is the one which got vibrantly exhibited, and a huge amount of time that race lived with that state, and thereby that state got absorbed wholesomely in that human in can be named as the spirit plus man equals the spiritual man. The emerged spiritual man having absorbed the spirit thorough within him, thereby providing ample opportunity and energy, power and potency for the rest of states, and also the needed space for those states to and for conduction, as suitable to the emerged states, and which are stipulated as per the great divine design in those states are namely psychic state, mental state and physical state, which states possessing all the rest of the states and characters, essence, substance and potencies in them too. So to say, every state is in all the states, and all the states are in every state with clear demarcation, separation, with proper segregation, a stunning management feat of the best order of division of hierarchy. This great management principle adoption is certainly adopted to produce a certain and definite result in emerging in human needed energy base with a proper backup facility, and to have a expected dynamism with this human race which can suit and absorb the present and future changes in evolution and conduction and continuity and certainty of the continuity of the human race. So what are those energies? How are they present in human? If we to know or attempt to know, is it essential to know? Definitely it increases our confidence and gives us the courage to face any adversaries, and can improve our faith in the continuity of this human race, and it reassures us that we are not at peril. And also it may not cause any inconvenience. So then let us know the latent energies, the susupti state energies, the concentrated energy centers, the sleeping energies, the dormant energies, the psychic energies, the mental energies, thought power, thought potency, thought process, and the inherent energies which are apart from the spiritual energies and a backing of the divine. The human possess along with those energies other different powers which are manifested within him for the various functions, and also for normal functions and chores of him, and those energy states have address of existence at different dimension and plane of energy in the human system, and those above mentioned energies were descended from the absolute state of source of pure and complete spirit, and expressed and settled and thereafter revealed with different degree of intensity in form with certain amount of concentration at a different places in the human system with specific state, status, level and reach and effect, and with specific function of energy which exhibited different nature and consciousness, and those energies while expressing and exhibiting conduct experience a sort of awareness in itself which creates presumption as if it had independency in conduct, likewise as if acquired independent identity, with its own specific quality and substance due to its place of existence and conduction, which produces effects upon the overall existence and also upon the energy, dimension and plane. In reality, those forms of energies further added to the distance of infinity and became the path way towards infinity, and all these actions and reactions of those energies have definite and certain effects upon the human physical body also, apart from mind and thought, conscious, and on spirit, etc. 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 By utilizing those energies and powers within him unknowingly, though insignificant in quantity and of existing quality and of place of availability out of a source of the total energies and powers, man somehow, by reaching them and applying them unconsciously upon himself and within himself, those utilized energies expressed their effect upon the human and upon his personality, and without his knowledge man do develop different personality traits and psychic traits, mental traits or dispositions, and those traits create likes and dislikes and accordingly orient the human personality and thereby evolve an unique individual and an exclusive human being, though appearance-wise same as other human being but entirely different identity, whereas it is in relation to individual identity is concerned when compared with other individual within the mankind. That evolved divine ordainment of evolution process spreads its wings to its full width of expansion and expression and allowed other types and races to emerge simultaneously at the same time as of the time of complete human emergence, which means with different characters, quality, substance, and orientation, etc. The great sojourn of search for mankind evolution at last brought us to the shore of the great ocean of knowledge of status of the human, all along baffling us, shattering us with the enormity of impact of this issue and spinning us endlessly in clock and anti-clock direction, but ended us up in conceiving and still limiting ourselves with the preconceived view that the entire universe in a way was manifested for the sake of the human without any role for the entire physical universe. But we quite often tend to forget, rather not intend to remember, that this planet Earth is the part of the universe, and we beings living upon this beloved Earth are also part of the universe. Having realized my status and your status now, though the tiny human we are, as universal man, due to our beloved Mother Earth being part and parcel of this universe, is planet in the universe, and me and you are the residents of this earth, and because of this the boon of status of universal man in literal sense and in physical sense became two, and after obtaining the status of human, in order to acquire the status of resident of this planet, which status is granted to us as gift from Almighty, which grant of gift became a gift from Almighty due to His kind grace in bestowing all the elements. After allowing all the elements to be present and to become part and parcel of this human existence, which elements are present in the physical form of the universe, whose essence utilization process the Almighty adopted and utilized while manifesting this marvel of His creation, and He benevolently named this creation as human and made all those the elements to be present, and due to the will of Almighty those elements continue to present and remain in existence and available for the manifestation of this human race continuously, which act is termed as the will of eternal, and to become as part and parcel with homogeneousness of its quality and substance and of essence of this human as long as this race continue to exists and remain on this planet Earth in His overall and total creation of this entire physical existence, and this human being become the sum and substance of the entire existence in essence form. And the process of creation got completed only when this human emerged, and hence this human is so dear to the Almighty for having been painstakingly manifested by the Lord. Perhaps millions, nay billions of years of human time might have got consumed by the Lord for manifesting this great grand marvel. From here this subject of issue of quest of evolution straight away lifted us up to the larger than largest issue, which is of this physical universe and the maintaining principles of this universe, and the management principle of this universe and the mechanism of this universe, because I and you and our blue planet are part of this universe. How should I know that issue of all universal principles, and first of all, why should I know all that gigantic issues? Am I really that way connected, and to know my problem and my individual existence should I know all these things and strain myself and yourself? Or why should my birth connected to all this great philosophical or spiritual or mind-boggling theories or analysis comprising of me, my civilization, other civilization, different times of unknown and known times, and entire mankind evolution and universal effects, implications and universal principles which in return governing me, my existence, my earth existence and what not? Oh, what a great burden! And if it's so, then am I and my existence is really that complicated? When I ponder over the basic query of my status as human and right to claim as human and my right to be named as human, I had the gracious gift to raise this very query, which was with that gift of help only, of my human mind, of my human heart, of my human thought, and of my human nature, which is to think, and I had been bestowed with the another great gift of language, which becomes the interpreter and expresser of my thinking, feelings, experiences, and differentiate me from the animals and other inanimate living things in cognizable way, so as to make others and myself to understand what was going on within me and with me around me. Hence, and perhaps my act of not to knowing may come under the category of not performing the sacred duty or deviation of act of human from the very status as human in which I wish to continue to remain. Perchance, I wish not to know, then what can happen? One thing is certain, having came into existence as human, the end, that is the cause of death, is going to be declared one day or other, or one way or other, but the question is of my continuous living as human continually continues till that clause of death get declared, and also the very basic question of me and my living clearly stands before me and asks me whether I am capable of living alone, continue to live alone, whether any time an human lived alone, or whether any human continue to live as full-fledged human by himself in this world by himself. Then if it is not that way, and the human emergence not occurred or continued, or we have no recorded evidence, then I am not and cannot going to live alone in this world, and further am also adopting other human ways of living and procreating, and am going to leave myself behind me after the cause of death, of which is projected in the future as my children. Then am I not having any responsibility towards myself and other selves, and to the society and to the world? Am I living alone without any other assistance, and am I able to procure and create those things at least which are my personal needs without the help of other selves and society and world and the help from above? The answer for the above queries are clear number. Not possible. Hence I too have to accept, like any rational human being, that we are all one as humans, but having our own independent identity and conduction, and still we are all interconnected morally, spiritually and universally. I am greatly relieved with this self-analysis, which was inspired and prompted by the Divine Master, Shri Babuji Maharaj, even though when I enter into lesser or wasteful or mental deviation issues away from the serious subject matter, still his guidance graciously given without minding my foolishness in raising such queries within myself, and answered and guided me in order to keep me on the right path and proper quest. The great spirit of search which was initiated by the Divine Master Shri Babuji Maharaj in me is rejuvenated, recharged, now a reoriented self, this me with his blessings, Again I took the courage in continuing this self-quest. May the Divine Master Sri Babuji Maharaj bless me with his everlasting grace to sail through this intricately interwoven, delicately subtly smoothened thought expressions so as to communicate the essence proper and right spirit of the issues and subjects which henceforth I may attempt to deal with his support and backing only. Amen. Due to the separation which has just occurred and happened in the one, and in that one the distance is born, and that born distance is due to the stir. That stir is due to the process which manifested to emerge the surge. That surge is essential to emerge the stir. To emerge that process, the accumulation of those elements which became the member elements of that process, and thereby taking the complete form and the shape of the process, and this very process also added to the distance and elongated the separation, and thereby that process of spread of ultimate divinity to absolute divinity to pure divinity to divine embodiments, divine entities, divine functionaries, divine architecture, divine mechanism, with a clear and definite divine purpose behind these, driven them to manifest all these stages. Then all these existences in essence form and in seed form emerged creation of entities which was named as pure entities with the physical bodies, and thereafter in order to accommodate the further process a middle state manifested, and that manifested middle state is named as soul in its original pristine pure state. And this individual state of space as soul is born at that same time as of that time of emergence of pure entities in the physical form with this life. The physical universe was already manifested with necessary and needed elements to sustain and support and continue to provide those elements for the creation continuity by creating the distance and increasing the distance in the pure energy, and thereby creating the needed intensity and concentration of energy of the level and for the next level, and further creating the distance within that created level of energy, the states, stages, and status being manifested and further added to the total distance in that energy in that concentrated form charged with such force and velocity, and ended up in manifesting the matter with different quality, substance, nature, and ready to receive this pure entity in the physical form, and completed the process of creation. The physical universe is comprised of galaxies, black holes, supernovas, dying stars, exploding stars, forming stars, expanding galaxies, and galaxies do comprise of stars, black hole, planets, and our beloved Earth is part of the galaxy of Milky Way galaxy, which is the heart or the center of the universe. The galaxies are expanding, the black holes are expanding, and the entire universe is expanding as well, contracting, and the principle of expanding and contracting, the cycle of birth and the death, the principle of formation and continuation, the principle of growth, the principle of decay, the principle of destruction, the principle of existence, the principle of continuity of existence, and all those principles which are governing our physical body, the same principles are also governing those galaxies, black holes, supernovas, stars, dying stars, exploding stars, forming stars, and as well those entities also have light, sound, motion, revolution, energy, space, time. Of them and relevant to them may not be as of us and our earth, but the principles and elements are almost same etc. etc. And those principles are in existence since time immemorial, and their conduct is also from time immemorial in the way in which they ought to remain. So let me come back and share the platform of quest again along with you in attempt to think on the same lines which perhaps may be yours as well as my views also, about the implied principles of the universe, and they are as per the Eastern nurtured thought which lays as a precondition of physical existence, there exists that spirit, and there is an universal spirit present in which is pervaded and spread the entire creation with its suitability to the place specific, need specific, amount specific, energy specific, power specific, potency specific, quality specific and function specific when need emerged to conduct suitably. Accordingly expresses while conducting the multifold functions of the universe within the member elements, space, intermediary space, and time, and also of entire universe. And the present day science do accept the spirit presence in the human as well other animals and other animate living entities, but became difficult for the present day material science to come to the terms of accepting the thought and existence of universal spirit. And also there are definite and certain principles which are governing this universe, and there are certain specific divine entities with the needed amount of divinity in order to discharge their divine dictum, and of the dictum do also comprise the governance in upholding those principles, who are present and whose presence is in one of the form can be experienced and found in the form of principles. And those principles who remained inspired in action and motion from time immemorial by remaining as so and still keeping intact, in shape, in motion, impeccably clear in function, of guiding, of evolving, of governing the entire universe and the members of the universe, and also definite different principles which are applicable within those members' physical manifestation of all the elements of them and around them, and in relation to the external atmosphere of them, and in consonance with the other outer physical existence, in maintaining the orderly function, orderly evolution and conduct, which in having the required conscious spirit, energy, power and abilities and awareness when expressed while governing the universe and conducting the functions of the entire universe. Those sacred beings in action with their matured wisdom while emerging out those sacred truths for the benefit of the mankind in the form of hymns and sacred syllables which were named as mantras, which were having the power, potency and essence of spirit in affecting the activation of energy state and thereby affecting the process of manifestation and the mind, and attempting through the mind and heart to manifest the needed atmosphere for the specified result within the being as well as on the external atmosphere. Duly having the complete awareness of the attributes, qualities, designation of the divine entity, and further adding the will as so, who possess the conscious of that order and who can render help when sought, and also whose consciousness can be drawn with the devotion and love and attachment with that divine entity, who are divine functionaries with divine mechanism, and to whom this ancient civilization prayed and developed emotional attachment, thereby developed love and further evolved the state of love to devotion, and further evolved that state to the state of devotion and reached the status of devotee, whose heart condition and state is in sublime condition due to having taken the effect of greatness of divine entities and lovingly named them in the known and practicing language of those times, the Sanskrit, as Devi, Devata, the means to emerge them in that divine form and to reach them and establish the bondage with them, with the bond of love, which bond is at the initial stages with the emotional attachment, and thereby to seek their blessings. They used mantras. And having realized that the universe basic energy structure within and around is mantras, Viswam, Mantramayam, to release themselves from the misery of distance of Devi, Devata due to the intensity of emotion. They sang in praise of their attributes of them, which helped these devotees to remain in the remembrance of those divine entities, having experiencing the divinity, and further to evolve their devotion and to develop intense attachment with those divine entities. They evolved certain types of mental, psychic, and physical practices which they termed as Vidhi and Vidnas. Kriya and Kratas, and thereby those devotees enveloped the entire race, starting from their immediate family, caste, creed, religion, and as well the general populace, and also they made the rulers too to participate in those sacred acts. All these above mentioned acts for the sake of divinity, of the divinity, by the divinity. Those sacred beings in action of those times treated those hymns as part of Vedas, which becomes part of the total Vedas, and the present available portion of hymns makes a small portion of the unavailable total Vedas, which comprises of the truth in the perception of divine light, the divinity in the perception of sound, song, the divinity in the perception of do's and don'ts and ways and means congenial to the divinity in. Further, they having realized the necessities of the human, which comprise of his physical well-being, mental well-being, psychic well-being, and requirement of protection from the unknown and known things in atmospheric, spirit or spiritual effects, a systematic study was evolved with the available means, and those means included for help are in the form of hymns, in the form of herbs, plants, trees, minerals, metals, alloys, earth extracts, marine extracts, and developed certain types of charms utilizing with the suitable mantras, along with propitiating those designated deities in restoring, continuing the state of well-being of those states of the human. This portion they named as Ayur Veda, which in return they made part of Atharvan Veda, and when further need developed due to the increase in the distance from man to man who recognizes other man as different man, and also due to the vagaries of times as well the other identity issues like color, complexion, size, shapes, geographical distance, food habits, languages, race, caste, creed, sex, dress code, etc., etc., increased further distance between man, and thereby the need for individual, family, state, countries' protection of their physical assets, boundaries, and other assets and animal assets, agricultural assets, water assets, wild assets, farm assets, crops and granary produce and stock and women, children, aged, and also for the defense of self, family, society, state, country. Then the need arise and felt acutely for the art and science of arms and armaments, along with the prayers with suitable hymns and deities evolved again, taking the help of that universal spirit presence by experiencing that spirit within himself, and when further need evolved of social administration, political science, finance, like subjects developed with the proper comprehension, and they became the part of Atharvan Veda. Though the modern and present-day scientific astronomy thought do accept that its knowledge about the entire universe apart from black holes is very limited, and the present-day developed science knowledge about that subject of universe is concerned in measure of the percentage wise is concerned, it is a minuscule percentage, not even enough to note as such. So better to continue the quest of finite man. Anyhow, we are not in a position till this day to understand in entirety the whole physical manifestation called the universe, and the holder of the universe, if any. Hence it is apt to know within me and me, by myself, which includes other self also. So let me try and find out whether my ancestors and wise men also thought on these lines and found anything about an individual human being in a collective sense. Yes, they did. Wise men of the times of this sacred land had that observant eye and analytical, clean and clear mind, and free and expansive heart to cover the entire existence, found a certain permanent principles from micro level to macro level of existence, and they termed them as the principles of yoga. When applied in relation to individual human evolution and emancipation, and that they further divided that observed principle into two parts, one as Hatha Yoga and another as Raj Yoga. Patanjali Yogi classified as Astanga Yoga having 8 steps in it: Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana and Dhyan and Samadhi in order to regulate those great major players of human for his behavior and orientation and to bringing the balance for the entire existence. Evaluation and re-evaluation is a continuous process which should be made as practice for any form of knowledge, and understanding is essential in order to suit to the changed times and need of the mankind. Sprucing and rectification, reorientation and modification also to be effected to the form of any knowledge. Apart from men and other animate existence, it appears that for a very long time for this form of knowledge no such treatment has taken place, as no such great masters has blessed this planet, and by the time due to the lapse of long time and continuous flow of different intensity of knowledge produced calculi within the channels and blocked the pure knowledge to descend on the mankind, and thereby allowed the chaotic states to present upon men and matter, and resulted into total imbalance within the human and around the human, and upon the planet as well on the entire existence. The darkness thoroughly prevailed as the inner light got consumed and the light of knowledge failed to appear and prevail. It became humanly impossible situation for the mankind to mend the affairs of mankind as thorough darkness, chaos, imbalance gripped the existence. A need emerged for the superhuman to emerge. The superhuman status is that, with the capacities bestowed on that status, the said superhuman tries to accomplish the tasks which were allocated by the divine, who receives the communication in the form of vibration, and when interpreted with clean and clear mind, and the heart which is free from malice and matter, of that level and state of superhuman, in which they descends and converts in the form of thoughts, and the superhuman need to initiate the action to accomplish the tasks through the action after thorough analysis. This way the superhuman organizes, for which the superhuman gets prepared, and the reach will be of superhuman only, which ends up at the higher level of human for human interactions, which were got complicated by improper adaptation of means and methods for the said actions, to set right those means and methods and to remove those obstacles on the path of action for the future, and to nullify the present living obstacles only. Probably he may not have the power and capacity to clear the past deeds and effects upon the atmosphere and the progeny, and interaction is of human plane, and on human interface only. The affairs presented upon and in the world are of such magnitude and having multiple dimensions, affecting every plane, state, and stage of mankind and existence. Hence it may be a too tall expectation of accomplishment of mending and correcting. So didn't seems to be possible with the supermind. Anyway, you and I are humans, and we only can attempt to think as this faculty was bestowed on us about the issues of the world and mankind as they are reached to the level of burning issues, threatening the very existence of mankind. As you and I are humans, in which the issues are yours and me too. We have been brought up with the thoughts of great teachers who mended and corrected the affairs of the people and gave the direction to the people and provided relief to the simple common man. Is it possible, if we choose to seek the help of them, to throw the needed light and provide efficient solution to the burning problems of the mankind? The area in reach, it appears, is that they, the great teachers or acharyas, Bhagavad Shri Adi Shankaracharya, Shri Ramanujacharya, Shriman Madhvacharya during 9th, 11th and 13th century, evolve suitable methods and practices with the befitting means to follow the evolved methods for the individual needs of self-realization and God-realization only, and further making the man to understand the need and necessity to orient to the subject issue in further creating the needed interest in his own betterment, then making him so as not to go astray in the present and also in the future, and making the man to put a full stop of his past habits. Who intend to take the training and interested to practice, not otherwise, means those who are interested in effecting the change in themselves. The great acharyas can help, but not to the presented affairs of the world, though certainly they are essentials for the society. Bhagavad Shri Adi Shankaracharya. To him with my humble prayers I seek his guidance in my efforts to understand the towering personality and unparalleled intellectual genius of all times, of that age group, probably never found in the recorded history of mankind, about those subject matters which Sri Bhagavad-pada dealt and presented to the world in that spirit. In his treatises becomes the beacon light and foundation and forming knowledge basis for all the great acharyas of subsequent times. Until date there is no such sound exposition by anybody about those subjects which Sri Bhagavad-pada Sri Adi Shankaracharya dealt at that young age. Sri Bhagavad-pada Sri Adi Shankaracharya, as the child of 8 years of age, out of his free will and choice, chose and joined the path of the recluse order of living, sannyasa ashram. After duly obtaining the approval and permission, prior to assuming the recluse order of living, which is a precondition ordained and laid by the Shastras, from his noble mother, duly executing the promise of his physical reach for the call of his revered mother for any assistance any time, but the noble and revered mother being alone living at the ancestral home of the Lord, placed the call only once for the Lord's physical presence during her lifetime. It appears that too for some other neighbor's need only. The true mother of most noble and revered motherhood. Indeed, he is only the truth. The truth is the truth in that order and sense which implies the truth that he is only the truth. And when the question was raised about the rest of the existence, the crypt answer from Sri Bhagavad-pada is, the truth is only he. And the truth can only one when compared from that sense of that existence, hence rest of existence is not that truth, and rest of existence is comprised on the truth of changing reality, principle. This is also the truth in that order and sense. But Sri Bhagavad-pada stressed the need of accepting only the truth as the truth and reality so as not to go astray and struck on different truth dimensions and planes on the path while the travel is initiated of the search of the truth. And also Sri Bhagavad-pada taken into consideration the vagaries of the times, force and power of the rest of truths and charms of other so-called truths, and the ability of its grip upon the psyche, mind, and heart. So strive to achieve that truth of only truth, that he is only the truth, and orient all the energies, capacities, powers and practices, then practice with the firm will after firmly establishing this truth as the basis, and thereafter by gradually taking the blessings in the form of revelation and guidance after duly developing the needed attachment emotionally at the initial level, and thereby evolving that attachment to the level and stage and status of love, and thereby developing the bond with the divine embodiments, divine entities, entities of enlightenment of divinity, resulting into pure devotion, and to end up in the stage of absolute purity of divinity in those divine entities who are present in all the time, present times of time immemorial times, to oversee the execution of the divine dictum as per the divine architecture and plan with the divine mechanism, thereby increasing the faith and improving the confidence and further affecting the advancement towards that final goal by passing over the innumerable changing principles, which results in further strengthening that faith that he is only the truth and reality, and imbibing thoroughly the status of the reality of permanency and reality of changing principle. Karanam, Karta, is Paramarthama only in Buddhi Karmanusaran, so whatever the choice left for the individual choice is to remain absorbed in the remembrance of him as the status of affairs of freedom of human is concerned, that is the foregone conclusion as Karanam, Karanam. Karta, the cause, the effect. The effect is he and he alone, and discretion and individual freedom of action and individual space, and all these manifestations by him only. Then where is this I, which can provide those things and boasts itself to have all the freedom for action, and individual space? Hence Sri Bhagavat Pada accepted with implicit acceptance of the divine will in the manifested circumstances was propagated. That amount of deep and absolute faith of omniscient, omnipotent and omnipresence of the Almighty to feel all the while living in this mundane world appears to be very, very high standard and superior ideal and goal to pursue. Almost not possible to achieve by any personality in mortal frame of any high standard, leave alone the ordinary mortal like me. But Sri Bhagavat Pada lived that way, preached that way, and stood tall as no equal in the annals of mankind history, and proved that way of living is possible. The law is proved when the exception is emerged. Improper comprehension, immature approach, and willful act of nullifying the spirit with the ulterior motto of selfishness of the treatises of the towering personality, the embodiment of pristine purity which is the form of divinity, nay the divinity Sri Bhagavad Sri Adi Shankaracharya, whose expositions which interpreted to create a race of inactivity and was impressed upon the common psyche is so in that resulted into procrastination behavior pattern of common man psyche, thereby expressed and exhibited idle personality thoroughly refraining himself for any action, and this further led to inaction, and which resulted into wasteful and useless debates in the society, which only to prove one's own superiority of his learning, capabilities, intelligence, without minding of the effects of such personality traits and behavior pattern which results in produces on his own self and upon the race without any consideration, as well having no regard towards his own race and kith and kin and of their present times as well as on the future generation. Those selfish demonic beings perpetuated such crimes of misinterpretation of those treaties for small and petty gains as well as for the satiation of their senses through the means of gratification which was provided by their bosses, who in reality enacted this mean and cruel perpetuation act of enactment upon the society, which resulted into slowly obscuring the light of knowledge and allowing the darkness to set in, and gradually enveloping the society, and became fertile ground for emerging inhuman, ungodly, evil acts in the name of religion. Religious texts losing the spirit of humanness as well as divinity within them, and also in those sacred places of worships, and a lineage of idle men in the garb of sannyasis resulted. And that state absorbed the entire religious texts, resulted into chaotic state, and this state engulfed even the means of worships, place of worships also, and produced the unparalleled distance between man to man, and few men becomes chosen ones for the worship, learning, as well as they made subservient the entire rest of the society and populace in the matters pertaining to every superior learning as well as common and minimum learning. When such was the scenario in these parts of the land in particular and as well in general, the saffron-clad revolutionary was born in those times of chaotic times. Sri Ramanujacharya, the saint and being human, of saffron-clad revolutionary of the great order of the human saints of those times, and also still comparable to the present-day times, and remains and stands tall as revolutionary because of his setting aside all the old order of right to worship, eligible to worship, means of worship, reserved and kept exclusively to a very small section of members of society which is infiltrated by inhumanness. In the present day, two of his thoughts and practices which found that revolution in his action plan while declaring that the worship of God is the birthright of the human, and all men are equal and same as they are all children of him, and further allowed all men of all the sections of the society entry to the place of worship. At that time when there was total denial of entry to the place of worship and to the worship also. Hence the great saint allowed and practiced and given that benefit. Further, the benefit of evolution of the great principle of evolution to the mankind by allowing any human fit for enlightenment and to elevate the human to the higher plane is possible for the human, which the saint physically proved to the world at large by allowing all section of the society to embark and adopt the ways and means of Brahminical order. The revolutionary is basically a humane in heart, an enlightened one of those matters and of those times, a true intellectual, an action inspired, with the arm of sacrifice of his own self with the ideal of the revival of rejuvenation by setting aside the old order which the great Acharya, with his intellectual genius, had with him, which mention was found in his living that way. A small mention of a passing event of his life may be appropriate here. When his master gave Maha Mantra for the Acharya's individual emancipation only, with a warning that if revealed the Mahamantra he will be doomed to the hell permanently, and for this condition this great Acharya accepted and took Diksha and mastered instantly the Mahamantra, and went straight atop the Vamana Gopuram and gave a call and invited all the town population, stating that he was in recipient of Maha Mantra which his great master gave, which has that power and capacity to redeem permanently and liberate one and all within this life if practiced sincerely, and revealed out that mantra. When his master found this and inquired with the Acharya for the suitable explanation, and the master further stated that this act is unpardonable. For this the answer from this great Acharya with humility and submission was, "Sir, I only need to go to hell and I only need to suffer of this ignobility of status of unpardonable. But entire mankind can get redeemed. So I have no hesitation in taking the punishment whatsoever the Master deems fit for me, and am at thy lotus feet." In true sense a true and great revolutionary, though belonged to the order of recluse living, but found the masterly principle for the evolution of mankind is action in all planes and dimensions of human existence, and further found this is also another essential criteria to be named the human as human, which was the great gift of Almighty bestowed on human, which the Acharya found as permanent companion of the Lord, who is the source of prosperity in the general sense, the divine consort of the Lord, the activity form of the Lord, activity center, and the Lord who is in deep, absorbed latent state, Yoga Nidra, remains engaged in sending divine impulses. Hence the great Acharya strived to establish this principle and inspire the masses to remain absorbed in the activity which he initiated as worship of Mata Lakshmi. The Lord is real but in latent state. The activity is also real, who is the divine consort of the Lord. The material manifestation of the Lord is also real. This concept of the reality in totality should be absorbed in entirety and start practicing to reach the Lord through the medium of Mata Lakshmi, the activity form. This is the sum and substance of the philosophy of the Acharya. Before the vagaries of the times and effect of the times, every human becomes a small mortal. Howsoever illustrious, noble, enlightened they are in their lives and living may be, but none could escape that effect, and we come across now the great confluence of thought rivers of two towering personalities, Shri Bhagvatpada Shri Adi Shankaracharya, whose noble thoughts and philosophies when misinterpreted which resulted as one thought is in action, and at the same time the great revolutionary Acharya Shri Ramanujachari's another thought is super action only without minding the results and effects, which resulted into great fight between the two followers of the Acharyas and involved the general populace and divided the man. Further distance was generated, and all these only for establishing the supremacy of philosophy and existence of the God that way, and in the melee the small mortal, the puny human, is lost along with his humanness in that wilderness. Now I mean at that time what is prevailing is utter confusion, chaotic state. Instead of the Sanatana Dharma of Vedantic philosophy, for which the two great lords struggled in, sacrificed every drop of their blood and life to establish. Alas, what a great calamity befallen upon the mankind! I am overpowered by this thought that those great spirit in human form couldn't tolerate a prevailed state of affairs which is further distancing and separating the men away from each other. And they offered their prayers to the Almighty for the right light to throw upon the issues of differences in the philosophical treatises, which becomes the source and cause of all these mess up. And perhaps again these two great acharyas who are in action all the times, though unknown to us, in trying to inspire people in right direction and attempting to develop proper orientation in us. It appears to be true as we see and experiencing the mind-boggling changes in the entire world, which is set into motion for the new order. Shriman Madhvacharya, when I attempted to take this great Saint Acharya's name, this great master blessed me immediately by affecting the realization of my individual self-tininess and puniness in my futile efforts as an individual self in trying to comprehend the truth that, the truth, he is only the truth, due to my small mind capabilities and a little heart and its abilities and a feeble spirit existence and battered and baffled soul status, which status obtained due to the effect of and before the gigantic dance, rise and fall of matter and its stunning manifestation. After observing the results of this gigantic drama, seeing my human, pathetic state, compassion oozed out of the great Acharya's tender heart, and the love for mankind manifested in accepted the incapacities of the miserable human as so, and also further keenly observing the on-goings of creation and their absolute reality status of matter, accepted, which is also reality, and as such the great Acharya revealed that, the truth is, he is only the truth, but the material manifestation is also of the Lord and also the truth, and should be treated at par with that truth, and due recognition and respect to be given to this material manifestation as also the truth, and to accept the truth this way in totality and completely, and this truth should form the basis for the practice for realizing the truth, and thereby the needed balance been provided and proper and correct orientation develops in the individual self for the matters concerning to that world. And to this world, and due and needed attention been given to the matters of mundane world also, in thereby avoiding the disturbance to the practice and allowing the peace to prevail, and thereby allowing the congenial atmosphere emerged around and within the self suitable to the path and practice. Datta Swatantra, or limited freedom to think, discretion and action and pursuance been given to individual human, howsoever little that freedom may be. Hence the individual is held responsible for the thoughts and deeds as long as he lives physically in this world. So the individual existence is accepted as well, the individual space is provided. And further the freedom for thinking and action been re-established by this great humane Acharya. And a hope rekindled in the hopeless hearts that with a proper training and guidance it is possible for the human to rise to the higher levels, and the divine does help and bless on the efforts of a individual pursuer. Thereby the Acharya revealed the humane face of the Almighty. Shriman Madhvamate Harihi Partarha, Satyam Jagat Tatvato. Bhedo jivaganaha, herar anuchara, nichocha bhavam gata. Muktir naija sukhanubuthirmala, bhaktishcha tatsadhanam. Rukshahi thrithiyam pramanamakhilam, nayeka vedyo harihi. As we were born and brought up in the land of faith, where everything and anything begins and ends in God, and any religion or faith can be practiced here, in the freedom of thought is existing here in the true sense of freedom of thought. As freedom of thought, for us it is easy to find different options and means and methods to find solution for any type and variety of problems faced by the mankind. That is you and me. So let us take the option of old text and scriptures of theory of incarnations. It is presented in the old texts and scriptures that we have 99 incarnations who blessed this our earth during the length and span of time and the space of existence of our beloved planet. They are Matsya, Kurma, Varaha, Nrusimha, Vamana, Parshurama, Rama, and Krishna and Buddha. The Matsya, the incarnation of Lord Vishnu, emerged when the time is nearing for the final annihilation through the means of Jala Pralay. And further, with the no hope of revival of this creation in the exhibited form, the Lord has absorbed the total essence of existence along with the essence of form, shape, and quality, so as to emerge on the later period when the stage again set for the emerging of creation, which act on the part of the Lord can be treated as the act of supreme intelligence of the divine. This incarnation is spelling the means and ways of emerging the creation afresh after the final annihilation with Jala, hence not suitable for the present situation where we are thinking of averting the very final annihilation. Perhaps if we could pray in that prayers were if heard and some personality is present and who could mold our prayers for the modification of the powers and energies of this incarnation to suit for our present day needs, then it may be that way it is useful. But still the civilization of the mankind fed with that faith of that existence of supreme and power prowess of him and sustained themselves with pure devotion to that supreme without minding the means and not sticking to the form specific, and absorbed the essence of the supremacy of the Lord and thereby evolved that devotion. And the devotion emerged. The Kurma, the incarnation of Lord Vishnu, emerged when cousins of same parentage, father being one, decided to emerge the nectar from the fathomless ocean's depth by adopting the method of churning the fathomless ocean, in order to create a base for the pestle to place to effect the churning. Then the need was emerged. And when the cousins requested the Lord to take the form of Kurma and to hold the pestle, and to absorb the rotations and thrust and still to remain stationary at the point specific of the center of the fathomless infinite ocean, to emerge the nectar and to gain immortality, life without the clause of death. This incarnation established the theory and practice of immortality and proved to the mankind that, in true sense, the mankind should strive for immortality of enlightenment in spirit as well for physical living also, and established the further fact that the divine help is present and available for that pursuit of becoming immortal and eternal. This incarnation powers and capacities can be utilized under the present circumstances of presented world also, as the present human is a physical pygmy and physical forbearing capacities and stamina are in limited extent, and most disease-prone bodies are getting emerged irrespective of race and without natural strength, capacities and capabilities of the age, but in spirit and in general terminology termed this race as intellectual giants, the present-day man, but the total comprehension of the spirit. Its role in direct relation to the entire existence, and that information and understanding availability is in limited addition quantity of information, and to the present day in as the dimension and plane is completely different and not belong to this planet. We are certainly in need of higher powers and energies. higher intelligence which can suit and can get modified to affect the changes of the present world. And with that type of help, if given and made available to us, then we can address certain burning issues of mankind, but definitely we are not in a position to solve our present day presented problems. So let us keep the quest on. The Varaha, the incarnation of Lord Vishnu, emerged when some race with the capabilities to place this earth in the other orbits of their own, or to remove the earth from the solar system and to conceal it in the depths of fathomless infinite ocean of different energy dimension. Then this incarnation emerged, and piercing those energy dimensions and destroying those race, brought the earth and placed it in the same orbit of solar system. This form of enlightenment in the form of this incarnation assured the mankind eternally that there is ever observant and watchful and protective eternal existence for the physical protection of this planet Earth, and rest be assured for the continuation and protection from external harm to the planet Earth. Somehow I am greatly relieved with this assurance thought, and was convinced that yes, it is the truth, and my heart is filled with reverence and humility resulted and brought me to the prayerful state. And the prayer is submitted. Amen. This incarnation powers and capabilities are on the plane and dimension of energy of different type. And we are seeking help for within and around and in the world of problems and issues presented in faced by the mankind, as these problems only gripped psyche, mind, heart and beings of the mankind. Hence we could not think, as there is no such amount of mental space left free. Though this incarnation was dealing with altogether different problems, still it is also a problem which the present day mankind might not have thought now, and as yet the mankind not faced such a situation, but the certainty of that type of capabilities still were unheard, and we are certainly in need of such capabilities and powers and intelligence, and such angle of vision is also essential in the present day scientific advance age. Again, we failed to muster the needed support for the cause. The Narsimha, the divine emergence, named and classified as the Avatar and said to be the incarnation of Lord Vishnu, who emerged for the prayers of 10 or 12 years old child devotee, who was the son of the emperor. From the inanimate thing, this incarnation is emerged to uphold the dignity and decorum of devotion and submission and pay respect for the penance and ordeals of the meek devotee, and assuring the helping hand of the Lord, and proving the theory of worship, that worship is an individual need and a private and personal issue, in being the personal practice adopted by the individual for his own emancipation without interfering in any institution. Hence any other institutions, viz., of the family, or of the religion, or of the society, or of the state, or by its members, or of the chiefs, has no role in that issue. All pervasiveness of the Lord and His presence in entire existence, which include animate and inanimate and the rest of the creation, was established, and the freedom of thought of highest degree was present in those times and of that time civilization of mankind. The same freedom was reflected even in young children. The example is Prahlad, and the same thought of freedom was given to them too, and that was accepted and practiced even by the ruling class, and the same unwritten law was binding even on the emperor. The woman, status and training is equal to institution, or the institution in itself, herself, when found her role in the process of molding of the entire race or civilization of that time. Civilization which was vibrantly expressed in bringing up the children, and whose an example was well found in Prahlad, in whom that amount of maturity, wisdom, devotion, perception, knowledge, compassion, love, maturity were no equal in any well-developed man, woman present, which was the result of that institution named the woman, whose training methods had no parallels. Under the present problems and circumstances, certainly the opposition is not from any form of institutions, rather all the institutions are the victims of the present prevailed circumstances of the world and the existence of the mankind and total existence. Hence we may not get complete solution to our problems with this incarnation powers and capabilities, though we may need the protection of this incarnation, the Vamana, the incarnation of Lord Vishnu, in order to establish the law of ruling on in the depths, dimension and plane of unfathomable ocean where the total unruliness prevailed and getting affected on the existence, and as no suitable personality presented there to restore the rule of law and balance in that dimension and plane. Then Lord decided to utilize this race as medium and also this planet to meant for the humankind race and that different race to replace themselves on different plane. This incarnation emerged and exhibited his universal form, and with that power of that universal form, this incarnation sent that race to the depths of unfathomable ocean to bringing the needed balance for the creation and existence, as well to restore peace and tranquil in that dimensions. Anyhow, we have been ridden of that problem already. If such problem was existing at that times, in the times of times immemorial, and not an issue at all now, we need not worry. In that type help of the incarnation may not arise, in that type of help of that incarnation may not suitable to our prevailed circumstances. But we certainly needed that teacher and his teaching capabilities who could teach us, mold us, orient us in the direction of righteousness and sacrifice of individual or collective or the entire race sacrifice for the larger interest and goals of mankind, who could inspire such spirit of sacrifice and achieve that goal. The great human sage Brahmarshi Vishwamitra, from whose heart of unfathomable love of the mankind and devotion for the upliftment and evolution of the mankind, from that enlightened mind, revealed that state in that self, and that revealed that self spelt that way, in that spelt that way, expressed and transformed as the prayer of enlightenment and named as Gayanti Iti, Gayatri. On that prayer sustenance this sacred land civilization evolved, and that prayer still providing the same sustenance to those sincere seekers on their path, and that prayer is meant and belong to the entire mankind. Om Bhur Bhuvaswaha Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyoyona Prachodaya. O Lord, Thou art the only existence. Thou art the only the truth. That truth of that existence emerge in this self. This appears to be the deep desire of the great human sage, and the Great One wanted this truth to be realized by one and all without any bar, and wanted to have as goal of life by all to realize that truth. This great prayer is the great solace to the mankind. Certainly we need this prayer result, but our present-day problems cannot be set righted immediately, and it may be of help but not the sure solution to the issues which are existing in the present-day world and for the problems we are facing. But we are certainly in need of that great teacher's presence and his training capabilities. If it could be granted, then we are fortunate and blessed, because we can also avail that great emperor's vast experience in ruling the world as well, mending the men and matters. The Parshurama, the incarnation of Lord Vishnu, the personification of spirit, valor, just, and fair and uncompromising for the basic tenets of those times, high standards of moral and human dignity, decorum, and upheld the high degree of authority for all the institutions of society and world. And before those ideals and those noble institutions, every human is a subject only in those high ideals are true governance for one and all, and those ideals are binding upon the human race, and if they adopt that way of life, then only those men are accepted as humans and not otherwise in a slight deviation of practice of principles. especially by the high and tall people while following even in day-to-day life and living is unacceptable and intolerable for those men of those times' civilization. When such was the nature of civilization and every deviation by the rulers also judged in that practiced principles manner, and those rulers were termed as unacceptable and they were treated as rogue chief of nations and principalities. When ruling the world with utmost cruelty, annihilation, inhuman, and barbaric ways and means, when those means and methods compared to the living and lifestyles of that standards of life of those times, only intended to take sadistic pleasure and to prove their supremacy with their power and wealth, and with their military capabilities, and making the lives of common man miserable and bringing misery upon them of unheard dimension. This unruly rulers created havoc, having no regard and respect for any institutions of the society and to the mankind. Hence the Lord Parshurama emerged and cleansed the globe by putting those unruly rulers to his Parushu, the weapon, for 22 times, and brought the sense of proportion to the rulers and gave the entire globe again to the dharmic lineage kings, and retired to the deep forests to do the penance, and dedicated his life for the higher learning and evolution, and imparted the training to suitable and befitting seekers of the knowledge of the form of the Vedas and arms and ammunition of those times. Automatically my hands lifted up and my heart became a begging bowl with the prayer begging him, Lord Parshuram, to descend again to help this mankind once again, and to cleanse this globe or fill this world with that spirit, so as make this present day human race fit to solve their problems and issues themselves. The many and multifold problems of the present world may be ended this way and can be set righted this way, and hence this power of incarnation is a proper mold suitable to our circumstances. A thoroughly disgusted being, after due observation of existing and prevailing state of mankind, myself, a personal wish. As an ordinary human being, I do expect immediate and instant relief like a miracle, but the reality is far away from my heart's wish, and the present day world issues are beginning with the physical contamination of water, air, soil, atmosphere, and serious thought pollution, energy pollution, and we are attempting to pollute the deep space after polluting the cosmos. So the present day situation is a totally different, but still we seek the help and blessing of this great incarnation. Then let us enter the times of next incarnation. The Lord Rama, the incarnation of Lord Vishnu in the form perfect of human ideals and goals as envisaged by this incarnation, are still applicable, as he upheld the dignity and decorum of human and the respect for the institution of family, for the institution of religion, for the institution of marriage, for the institution of society, for the institution of human feelings, for the institution of state and law, etc., etc., etc. But the specific threat was to the institution of marriage and family, and an unwavering ideal was to be presented and exhibited and proved to follow those ideals while living in this world, howsoever they are hard to follow, as to the complete restraint and control on oneself is essential, which become the hardest way in the human life. Though this is also one of the threats of the present day problems, still the total and complete solution is not possible by that way of Lord Rama. As now the world is ruled by innumerable rulers, and means and methods and ways, and their ideals and goals are different in many ways. Still you and me are struggling to find a suitable source to evolve a proper method and means in men. The Lord Krishna, the incarnation of Lord Vishnu, God lives. God's abode is in the humble hearts of simple men. Includes women. Devotion and love as known to them are only essentials to the Lord, to be with the Lord without any inhibition and remain inhibition free in his sang association. The Lord born that way, lived that way, exhibited that way, become a model that way, unwavering that way, preached the same that way, breathed that same way. The fragrance of that way engulfed the entire universe, rather that universal way which is free from any sort of inhibition. The Lord made it as His own, rather the form of Him is of the form of universe. Still all along His physical living the Lord moved in the amidst most intricate, powerfully knitted, dangerously woven and interwoven emotions, men, circumstances, still remaining the simple Khan, the darling of devotees and gopas and gopikas, and also is the Lord to the learned men and wise men of wisdom, mighty men of knowledge in all fields of knowledge, mighty men of power, mighty rulers, blood-thrust and blood-dripping mind men, mighty men of pious hearts and minds, innumerable arms and ammunitions powerful enough to convert the globe to ashes instantly. Number of times available with unscrupulous rulers all over the world, and the selfishness among the high-end rulers, to the levels of unparalleled plane and dimension. Limitless and endless are the gratification of the senses pleasures of the rulers. Among and with them, the Lord moved and interacted in order to establish the balance and proper governance for the masses. Civilization and research and invention and material prosperity were at the pinnacle, and no further scope for any sort of further improvement. Many similar ways and means of the times of the Lord were also similar, and the Lord faced as we are facing the problems today, and they are similar, and His wisdom and power can be of great help, and we still fall short of complete solutions. Because the Lord has the total support of learned class and simple men and pious men, devoted men, and the general morale of the general populace was very high, and atmosphere is free from contamination, and vegetation is pure and clean. Rivers and streams and oceans are pure, and soil has full fertility, and air has the quality and enchanting in its fragrance. Fertility in the men and animals are very high, and they used to manifest mighty men and mighty breeds of beasts. But in the present day we are not that fortunate as was the Lord is. We have everything in negative, and all levels and layers of our existence is thoroughly affected and in a decomposed state. The globe being the same at the time of Lord Krishna, the civilized habitation not inhabited in and upon the total globe. There were slavery kingdoms, the barbaric kingdoms, the beastly kingdoms, the cannibal kingdom, were present, apart from kingdom whose rulers are women with peculiar code of conduct, and not of code of conduct of our civilized world of that times. Though it appears that they had their own mode of transport and communications, but they had no much contact with this part of world and no exposure to this civilization. The world of that time had not shrunk as of the world of this present times with, and not became a global village, and the total population upon the globe is also not as of now. At any given point of time of the incarnation or before, the frame and size and lifespan of human is also not as of that times, and we can term our present race as of pygmies compared to those times when we hear the depiction of the men of those time. Their prowess also unparallels. It appears we enter almost of the present times from the times of Lord Buddha. The education, learning and study and teaching through the system of university, with the first University of Nalanda and Takshila, which attracted students from distant lands like China, Japan, Persia, Korea, Thailand, Indonesia, for the higher education, with almost all the facilities of the present universities were in use as per the recorded history and available in historic monuments. Starts from his times. Lord Buddha, the incarnation of Lord Vishnu again. The sacred Mane and the lotus feet blessed this sacred land. This sacred land was infested with barbarianisms, inhumanism, a very small expression, the noble means of prayer, practices, methods, and means were put into the use of generating power in some and to obtain mastery over the power, and to threaten harm the common man and becoming selfish to the level of no return and become pleasure mongers and seekers, and being having the sole aim in goal gratification of senses and subjugation of common man, thereby produced innumerable gods and goddesses and innumerable means and methods and ways of worship of gods, again only to fulfill all and sundry desires of men. Such section was emerged and had the total grip and control on the mass psyche in men. And they lived in eternal fear for anything and everything, leaving no room for the love and compassion, sacrifice and penance, for human living and in the human living. Hence the Lord Buddha came out with the only solution, the panacea, for all the evils of the society is renunciation, is love, is compassion, is sacrifice, is penance, and surrender and submission. Buddham Sharanam Gacchami, Sangam Sharanam Gacchami, Dhammam Sharanam Gacchami. Maybe this method of surrender and submission is good only when the future is assured to the present day mankind, and still we don't have the answer and solution for the accumulated and future coming generations, as the correction and rectification is essential in order to bring in new civilization. But in the decadent state, how is it possible? So still we are away, and the destination is a very long way to reach. That type of the problem he solved, and now it is in a limited way. If only all the power and personalities worked together in synonymously, then this state of affairs wouldn't presented this way in the world. And who could make all of them to work synonymously in order to bring out needed result of balance in the existence? The present day is the result of all the days of past. That is, from the times of existence came to existence to now. The evolution. So we have inherited all the assets and liabilities of all the past of us. At the same time, the present time. This present time is the time of balancing the times. Anyhow, we have done the introspection, with retrospection of all the evolution, thinking that this may throw the proper light upon the burning issues faced by the mankind, that is you and me. But we still covered the analysis of understanding only to the BC and not to the present times. That is after Lord Jesus Christ. The era of Him. The times of the Lord are two contrasts in totality, as if two faces of the same coin, though but still away and apart, as if it can never be comparable and can never be met. The Greek and Roman civilization is at its pinnacle, as all the roads leads to Rome. And the other side of civilization to other common man other than Romans are utter poverty, slavery, and barbaric approach and treatment to the humans. Apart from innumerable gods and goddesses, means, methods, and practices only to satisfy their desires and lust, powerful ruling priest class with unconditional and unlimited powers to their share in application of the same on the whole populace. That resulted into total oppression and exploitation in the name of religion and God, and that situation further resulted into complete loss of discrimination and thereby the darkness of mind and heart, and the hell, namely fear, enveloped the entire populace and resulted into the downfall of the mighty civilization. All the places of worships converted themselves for total unholy acts and deeds instead of holiness to prevail, and became fit for destruction. From the state of non-existent to restoration of human dignity, restoration of value for human life, restoration of respect for human life and living, restoration of respected behavior patterns among the humankind, removal of religiosity and replacing it with love, compassion and sacrifice and service becomes motto of him. This light went on lit the mankind for about 600 years, and the half the globe absorbed that form of light. Love one and all. Absorption of one thought. Love. We certainly and definitely need that approach to the human life and living into the entire existence, though apparently we humans all are attempting practicing them, but to our dismay the same state of hell, that is fear, is gripped the entire existence, and hence this attempt to think and search to find the means. Still not near to the shore, forget about the ocean and pearls. All of a sudden and suddenly the only one, the Prophet, presented with one thought: Allah is one and all are one. And let us pray. And let us pray this way only. Orient every other thing in me to Allah and remain. That is all. In the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful, praise be to Allah, the cherisher and sustainer of the worlds, most gracious, most merciful, master of the day of judgment. Thee do we worship, and thine aid we seek. Show us the straight way, the way of those on whom thou hast bestowed thy grace, those whose portion is not wrath, and who go not astray. Quote, this principle the Prophet Muhammad Sahib brought out amidst chaotic conditions and barbaric and inhuman practices among the desert lands of which comprises of largely tribal populace. Absorption of one thought and only thought in waiting is the practice prescribed by him. Solution to the present evolved society may not be possible with that application, as the Prophet largely dealt the personal and private need of individual aspiration of worship. So when we started to analyze one of the basic characters of the human and its effects, that analysis led to the analysis of the entire existence apart from the human existence. So to understand the human, we have to understand the entire existence. In some substance, all the incarnations' presence is for the preserving and continuing of this planet Earth as well. It is the same thought for the opposite of the incarnations, in their own way, which they thought proper, and as well the well-being of the entire humankind. But the opposite side of the incarnation is limited to themselves and for their race, it appears. After thorough roaming around the times of time immemorial, we need to come back to our present times of our recent memory, and also to see whether any personality who did influence our fathers and forefathers, and as well influencing us even today with his great thoughts and teachings, and brought happy tidings of renaissance of spirit from his advent and become the source of spirit for the mankind in the recent times, and acclaimed and accepted as the great personality of the world by the world around the globe. Oh, who is that personality and about whom I am thinking so loudly? Then he must be the Swami Vivekananda, and without knowing his times and his life, his ideals, the journey of search for the proper comprehension of renaissance of spirit of mankind, civilization and human race, is well to come to proper conclusions of our effort to identify the problems and solutions may not be possible. Noble parentage is essential for the mother nature to manifest the priceless child of her who is being getting manifested painstakingly by her, absorbing countless years of time apart from deep, intense longing, waiting for the elements to get emerged as suitable earthly elements to take form of the physical body of the child, which becomes so in due course as to give as gift to the mankind, and that gift was granted as boon to the womb of revered Mother Bhuvaneshwari Devi and parent revered Vishwanath Datta. The child is Narendranath Datta, who is the nature's prodigy to the mankind. Born on the 12th of January 1863, being the first male child of the family. Blessed land become the erstwhile Bengal province of British Raj, having trod upon by the lotus feet of the Lord Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, and further blessed that land became, having been chosen by the Lord to live and continue to live during his lifetime in that province till the last breath of him, Narendranath Datta. After the sudden physical wailing of Swami Vivekananda in the beginning of 20th century, the world had lost the spirit and the soul of spirit and the source of spirit. The great spiritualist, who could embrace the whole mankind with one great statement, My dear brothers and sisters, at the Parliament of World Congress of Religions at Chicago, USA, in the year 1892, a true human, during the life of the great monk who always nurtured the thoughts of better world and better India, and expressed the same in his thoughts, writings, and deeds, but remained worried amidst the chaotic state of affairs of the world, and in particular of the motherland state and status, when the prevailing conditions of motherland become unbearable and intolerable for the heart of the Swami, the monk started weeping silently, and the great monk heart bled profusely for the upliftment of masses and for the total removal of oppression from the world, and raised his slogan, "Rise, O sleeping man, rise. Freedom is your birthright. Ye are the free man. Born free, live free and die with freedom. Shatter the shackles of slavery. Rebel for freedom. Rise. Arise, O immortal. Realize that immortality, awake and arise from stupor and bring back that form of enlightenment. Illuminate the world. Lead the world. Show the path to the world. O great human, arise. Arise and awake. That eternal resounding, reverberating, ever reminding and remaining the will of the Swami, the monk, reverberated the hearts and minds of India and stirred the world conscious, and charged that spirit and conscious with the rebellion, and oriented the mankind towards that goal of complete freedom. Freedom from slavery, freedom from imperialism, colonialism, riddance from poverty, riddance from diseased minds and bodies of the men of the world. And he remained forever in spirit, to oversee the changes. Thereafter the physical wailing of the Swami, the great monk. The world had witnessed the great world wars, the great revolutions, the great upheave in the form of freedom struggles around the globe, affecting every country in particular and the world at large, and no mighty power of nations, monarchs, kings, emperors, queens, dictators, could withstand the upsurge and could contain the force of surge or check the direction of surge, which was oriented towards complete change of the circumstances and affecting the change of topography of the world map of countries, and throwing away the old order of ruling to the new order of ruling, and with full resistance and fight for the equality and freedom, and attempted to eliminate the subjugation of women and weaker sections, and wiped out the old order exploitation means of working class, artisans, and affecting the national assets ownership change. And this change has painted the whole globe with red communism, and howsoever the country may be away from the mainstream of world thought, that prevailed conditions of the world had become the index of world map for oppression, exploitation, subjugation and subordination, and without any hope, in the darkness with perfect grip. The sleeping lion, the maimed lion, the caged lion, the starved lion, the malnourished lion, the soul of the world. That is the impression of India which the Swami nurtured and realized and professed during his life time and in all his writings, and asserted to awake the spirit of India. For the good of the world, that spirit of India had to be awakened. How to awake the India? And India cannot be awakened from stupor by itself, and that great spirit and the son of her left the mortal frame, and the situation was grim and gloom in India and around the world, and the world is filled with full of bloodthirsty countries, and wanted to establish their supremacy with their power of arms of mass destruction, namely atomic, biological, chemical weapons and wealth, and with scientific prowess, and wanted to occupy every country and to wipe out the human race whichever may resists their attempts by initiating wars which was uncalled for action, though other countries were living in peace and not disturbing peace of the aggressor country, and inflicting on small nations the untold misery by destroying all the economic machinery, infrastructure frame, harbors, ports, airfields, rail lines, bus terminals and bombing the civilian towns, cities, with mindless killings and ruining the orchids, orchards and anything and everything which came on their way only to establish the supremacy for that purpose. To achieve, those rogue nations wanted to destroy the very fine fabric of interwoven design of institution of family by naming some race is superior and some race is inferior, and wanted and desired woman as pawn and lust satiating means, and nothing beyond as there is nothing beyond than that purpose for which only she was born, groomed, and brought up, and thereby that very womanhood is under great stress in the institution of relationships among the mankind, which was nourished and grown along with the civilization, was about to get dissolved by these mean minds of lust-satiating beasts in the role of woman as mother, sister, daughter, and the womanhood itself in that institution of relationships was about to get vanished in the air like vapor, and also the further institution of marriage is about to lose its sanctity, and further the institution of religion also losing its role and becoming stale and defunct, and produced rituals which became mindless worship methods and resulted into the state of stale and mechanical. After losing the spirit behind the worship and further losing the norms and means to follow while living, these conditions which prevailed in the institution of religion was fertile ground for producing the dictators, as this institution only shapes the man at the primary level by inculcating the basics of human life and the respect for human life and living, and affecting a deep impression upon the social conscious of oneness of human and equality of human, and allowing the human race to live and continue to live in conducive way and compatible way for one and all. What happens if India does not awaken from the slumber under the prevailing circumstances, and if doesn't rejuvenate itself with the spirit and doesn't soak the world with the spirit of love, devotion, and orient the world for the higher ideals and towards higher spirit? India as a country never ever had undertaken a military march towards any peaceful country within intention to establish its supremacy and to rule over that country, and never ever occupied any country of the world. Rather, there is no country to mention which were not perpetuated attempts to subdue and occupy this country. No country or nation can understand better than this country about the destruction and trails of destruction which the violence and war can cause, and what the effects it can leave for the men and civilization. Because this country was targeted from time immemorial for plunder, looting, and exploited continuously by all and sundry rogue nations with their barbaric force, and such crimes were committed which were no equal for comparison on this soil and on this civilization and on the men and women of this country. Suppose if I try to go to the mythological times of India and find there any such events were there which shaped my country and my civilization, thereby affecting the world's civilization and the mankind. I think we had plenty of such wars, and we had passed through the most violent times which were marked for us as mythology, and if I don't take all those mythological wars of those ancient times, it is all right, but if I miss those two great civilized times, the Ramayana and the Mahabharata times, which were almost the foundation of our present times and civilization and times, and we can find those same morals and rules with which we and the whole globe in the countries of the globe are practicing. Say, respect for elders, love for young, and respect for the institution of family, for the institution of marriage, for the institution of feelings, and for the institution of religion, and thereby the institution of society covering the nation and nations. And for our share we had the epic war of Lord Rama of Ayodhya with Danava Emperor Ravana Brahma. Thereafter that great war, the entire civilization of that mighty mind and Mane of Danava race was wiped out, and no traces of their knowledge, wisdom, scientific development, Knowledge about arms and armaments. Research, because in that epoch the depiction of Lanka stated as Swarna Lanka means the country with golden structures. Perhaps till date we have no such place existing in the present world, and also the great race of Vanaras and their prowess and their knowledge and every form of knowledge and everything of them we had lost. The second price we paid for that great epic war was in the form of polygamy. And the entire countries were wiped out of able-bodied male members, and that proof in effects we can find in the next form of civilization of Dwapara Yuga, wherein the mention of women rulers, women chieftains, in the distant lands of those times, which indicate that those men of those lands in total were participated in that epic war. And that mention is available in the next great epic war Mahabharat. The mention of Pramila, Uluchi, Nagakanika, land of captives of Guru Sandipani's son. The perception of the effect of the great war was visible in the utterances of Dharmanandan of Panduraj, when he was defeated in the cunning game of dice, cunningly by his cousin, and he simply accepted the verdict of banishment to the forest for 12 years. And 1 year of banishment in the towns in guise. After visualizing and perceiving the warlike situation and the effects of destruction and trails of destructions which follows after the war for the civilization and for the common man. If he doesn't accept that verdict, with the belief that the time is a great healer and it will heal anything and everything, howso ever the depths of enmity or jealousy may be in the human hearts and minds, thereby avoided the war immediately and gave the peace for the common man for 13 years and deferred the war for 13 years. And the supreme matured act of refrainment of Arjuna on the battlefield, having had all the powerful and most destructive arms of those times. For that matured mind who had that power of understanding of those arms' power and the effects of the destruction thereafter of the war, refrained to become the instrument to destroy the entire civilization and wipe out the effects of the pinnacle of development of civilization for the sake of getting the share of empire, and that noble act received the boon in the form of sacred text, the Bhagavad Gita, for the entire mankind. The effects of cruelty, inhuman sufferings of the human beings, and that perception by the tender hearts and pure minds, paved the path for mankind in the form of Siddhartha as Buddha, the enlightened one, and Jesus the Christ. These great events are recent recorded evidence in the annals mankind. And of the recent times of the Ashoka the Great, the effects of after seeing the great Kalinga war, which he himself inflicted on the kingdom of Kalinga, visible and recorded in the history that he himself became recluse and adopted the Buddhism and made his son and daughter as sannyasis and made them as missionaries and sent to the farthest lands, and spread the Buddhism in the entire north, eastern countries, Central Asia to the Western Asia and Middle East side. The results and effects were same and are same too of the war, which resulted in total loss of institution of family, institution of marriage, institution of religion, institution of learning, and civilization, and result into polygamy, sex slaves. Section of society was made to born out of these chaotic time to satiate the carnal pleasure of certain section of society in whose control the land assets and other assets of nation were placed. After the Great World War, Iron World War, II, the history repeated and the results were the same as of the time immemorial, which was presented and visible to till date of those effects of destructions. The loss of institution of family, the loss of institution of marriage, the loss of institution of religion, and that resulted into rampant divorce rate in creating single mothers, single fathers, further resulting into untold oppression of children and women, aged and dependents, and this led the situation for emerging severe norms and punishment for child upbringing. and abuse, and for the aged and elderly different norms of protection and safety. And they are thoroughly in practice of those laws and methods in the entire Europe, Central Asia, Asia, Northeast Asia, and the world at large, wherever the trails of destruction of the war and destruction taken place. Such situation is visible. Every country on the globe participated in the war other than Switzerland. There was never ever a physical threat to the planet Earth due to the contamination, and also added by the actions of the general populace, and it further added to the thorough contamination due to adopting unnatural, unwanted, unwarranted means while utilizing the natural resources. Application of natural resources, and also utilizing the inert and inherent energies of man by adopting such unbecoming and unholy means and ways for emerging or awakening those inert energies in the man, and further enhancing the state of absorption and rejuvenating themselves, and further indulge in those unwarranted acts and without proper comprehension of natural principles as well. The absence of comprehension of the divine decorum and dignity and the principles of divinity towards mankind and of their own existence, divinity, and without proper perspective of the nature and also of natural resources, and this state of contamination never reached the state of thorough contamination of the present state in entirety, and was not taken place in the span of known times, and the same amount of contamination and pollution also taken place of the inhabitants of this planet Earth, and further the atmosphere and cosmos, which never got contaminated to this extent, and not taken place in the entirety of the human existence as well as in the total existence of the creation also. Hence the alarming situation and almost threatening situation which is capable of bringing in a total dissolution of entire existence, due to the presence of all the problems and all the issues of all the times as well, total contamination physically. Hence the task became huge and tough to mend or correct or orient or reorient, and almost became impossible, and for all the span of existence and the solutions earlier prescribed by the great men of those times were mostly need-based or issue-based as it appears and as I could understand, and not totally covered the total problems and issues as well for the continuity of human race with proper orientation. That state, namely absorption, did played a vital role in the entire existence of human existence, which is visible, and the state is present all along in different degrees, in different planes and different levels and states and stages, but correction and orientation and direction for the state of absorption is not much visible in the long journey of human, and not dealt by one and all of those great men of all the times to till now. The common man's psyche was affected and developed, and evolved man's psyche also got affected differently and absorbed different intensity, and thereby the movement of growth not became vertical and in the perpendicular distance to the goal, as the goal of life was a matter of consideration till almost all the times of the past and to the present. At the most the frame of conduct and living had been specified to the man with the frames like of institution of the family, institution of marriage, institution of religion, institution of education, institution of society, and institution of state. But the institution of individual self is not evolved, and an individual self-existence is the part of the total existence of the society and state, and it appears that the individual need of harnessing himself had not thought, rather enough thought had not been given during those times to the present times. The modern present times taken this aspiration in the matters pertaining to the education, way of life, habits, profession choice, choice of marriage, choice of dress code, choice of physical body-orientated issues. The charm of taking care of the physical body and its requirements in a glamorous way has become the goal of life and way of life and purpose of life, thereby establishing individual requirement and satisfying the same, overlooking beyond and above other individual requirement and beyond a need of institution of family, institution of religion, institution of education, as this institution of education is to satisfy the individual requirements, then becoming part of fulfilling the need of other institutions and thereby the humankind. The present civilization is marching on the path of search, not finding yet the very private and personal need of the individual which was present in latent state, namely the urge. A state of imbalance and inconvenience which could not be properly conceived to his own self and interpreted. If interpreted, it presents itself as yearning to be one with something. As it is not happening, it is producing a state of insecurity and fear of their survival by the present day mankind, as they thoroughly absorbed in that states of insecurity and fear. So it became imperative to evolve a suitable method of practice to regulate the state and the state of absorption, and thereby the growth in the right direction, congenial to harmonious ways of existence and resulting into moderation and brining in the balance state for the human and of his existence and for the entire existence. To make emerge such a method and practice is possible only for the ultimate, and that is in the hands of the ultimate, and the ultimate in the human form, the ultimate in the human mind, the ultimate in the human heart, the ultimate to live in conduct as the human and binding himself with the simple principles of humankind, and a method of practice to practice which the ultimate method of practice, a natural method of practice, suitable to practice to the present day man and for the future man. And the ultimate for the mankind is the prana, and the prana to be infused perennially and make it available whenever the need arises, and that ultimate reset, the ultimate principle named as eternal principle or masterly principle. To do this, a second first stir to be initiated due to the need of that magnitude of task, and to get it accomplished, from which everything is born and from which everything is sustained and of which everything becomes this eternal principle and the source of mankind. In this essence of compound of energy, a new mixture to be added by which the new civilization should emerge and becoming fit to receive the training for the God realization. With that of mind and with that of heart and with that of mane and with that of spirit and with that of consciousness, with that of prana and with that of vitality. This vital element has been introduced in order to establish the future civilization on the foundation of spirituality, and to build such spiritual edifice for the mankind become the work of the ultimate in the human form, which the Mahatma did it, and hence declared the eligible criteria to follow the method of practice. Namely, Sahaj Marg is willingness on the part of a seeker for any form of knowledge, for any form of learning of any stream of knowledge, and for any form of training to undergo, for any form of study, for any form of physical participation. There is a minimum eligible criteria apart from the willingness. But the Mahatma set aside that minimum eligible criteria and made free and open for the entire mankind, irrespective of creed and caste and sex or formal education. And only criteria is that he must be a human being. When the presented state of affairs and the need for rejuvenations and for the ultimate own designs, which known to the ultimate only, blessed this planet Earth in human form and named as Babu Ramchandra of Shahjahanpur, UP, India. The Mahatma gave a method of practice and named the method of practice as Sahaj Marg, natural path. Simple and easy to practice because every human is practicing those same yogic principles based upon which the Mahatma envisaged this method of practice, based upon the method of practice, namely Ashtanga Yoga of Yogi Patanjali. Now, the problem, the solution, the master, the method, The means are presented by the grace of Lord. We are fortunate and blessed. The long and never-ending journey to find solution is ended and leaving a vacuum to be filled by the mane of you and me. What is that vacuum? The vacuum is the mane. That is, the mane, the mind, the heart to be turned and to be trained and to be toned. To be raised to that level, where this training become effective and affected and resulted as the Master expected. The mission of the Mahatma is to remove the oppression from the oppressed. With the simple prayer which is the presentation of facts of his, her, self-state and status before the divine so as make the divine to turn to the seeker's state from that ultimate state and to assist those sincere seekers on the path of God realization, self-realization with his prana. The Parnasya prana, the transmission, the eternal prana, to realize within this very life or within a short span of time that goal of seeker's life and his availability to the mankind eternally in order to assist them. And remained in their service during the whole lifetime of physical time and thereafter of his physical wailing. When Sri Babuji Maharaja placed this system of meditation to begin with the prayer to the Master, which is the seventh step as per the Patanjali Yoga Sutra named as Ashtanga Yoga Sutra. Yama means dos, niyama means do and don'ts, asana means a convenient posture to do the assigned job, or physical withdrawal of extended limbs and affecting the contraction of physical body to do meditation. Pranayama means a process of generating prana by making the breath movement regulated or make it as a natural state of breathing, the process of inhale and exhale of breath. Pratyahara means withdrawal state of mind and body. Dharana means deeply accepted thought. Dhyan means repeated thinking and the process of repeated thinking, and Samadhi means a thorough state of absorption within with the divine and filling the divinity within the length and span of the space of the individual existence. The state of absorption is the secret of growth in the field of spirituality. On the path of realization, sufficient amount of absorption is essential to develop the proper amount of ojas in the system of practitioner, which become essential to train further on the path towards infinity. When the sufficient amount of absorption is developed in the seeker with the absorption of transmission in the said individual self, then it becomes further easy for the Mahatma with the utilization of pranahuti, transmission, pranasya pranha, the eternal pure prana of him, to train and elevate the seeker, the individual self, to the further higher levels of superconscious after duly preparing him by strengthening the nervous system, heart, brain, mind and conscious, and increasing the level of potency of the thought and set righting the thought process and needed changes affected in the spirit and the source of spirit, and thereafter infusing the needed amount of prana and increasing the prajna, and then resulting into the extent development of ojas in the system or body of the abhyasi, which process becomes essential to evolve a personality and to affect the transformation. That process which is the core essential in divinization of the self, which is the promise given by the Mahatma to the mankind when he unveiled this method of practice. Sahaj Marg, the total divinization of individual self, within this human life, or within the short span of time if proper cooperation and coordination on the part of the seeker is assured and available.